It is comparison time here at the channel again, and we are taking a look at two of my favourite lightweight neutral trainers of the year so far. So we have the Hoka Mach 6 and we've got the Rebel V4 from New Balance. But I've really enjoyed my time running in both shoes, but one of them just slightly outperforms the other. So will it be the Mach 6 that comes out on top, or will the Rebel V4 from New Balance take top spot? Well, I guess there's only one way to find out, so let's dive into the video. Welcome back to the channel, folks, and thanks for tuning in again. I hope everybody is fitting well out there in the world of YouTube and training hard. I'm Lloyd Purvis and this is Run for Adventure, your friendly, informative, running related YouTube channel. Now, if this is your first time watching one of our comparison videos, what we tend to like to do is give you a few stats on the two shoes that we're looking at. So things like price, weight, heel offset, and then we like to also break down the two constructions in a bit more detail before we wrap up by telling you all about the performance when it comes to sort of upper fit and comfort and performance of the midsole and outsole. So pulling up the stats first, and you can see that these two neutral running shoes are very similar. So they both actually retail here in the UK for £140. The New Balance Rebel V4 is a slightly lighter option, weighing in at only 224 grams in a men's UK 10. However, the Mach 6 is only 13 grams heavier at 237, so still a pretty light daily trainer. We've also got a very similar stack height as far as the midsole is concerned, and there's only a 1mm difference when it comes to heel offset. So you can see there is a lot of similarities that cross over to these two neutral daily trainers. Moving on to construction next, and we're going to start at the top with the upper. So both shoes actually come with a pretty lightweight stripped back upper design, and they both utilize a nice lightweight breathable mesh on that construction. I would say we've got a very similar thin gusseted tongue design in the Mach 6 and in the Rebel V4s, and we have a very similar sort of moderate level of padding around the ankle collar and in the heel of both shoes. I would say that the Rebel V4's phantom fit upper is a little bit more stripped back, and because of this I personally feel I get a little bit more plushness and a little bit more comfort from the upper on the Mach 6. As far as the two midsole setups go, you can see from the stats that both shoes carry a similar depth of cushioning, but I actually feel that these two different foams give you a very different underfoot feel. So in the Rebel V4 this time round, New Balance have added some PEBA foam to this blend of fuel cell. Now, PEBA foam is high energy returning stuff, and it's used in a lot of carbon plated race day shoes at the moment. So if I push into this midsole, you can see that that foam they've used is extremely soft to touch, whereas the Hoka shoe utilizes a supercritical foam in this midsole. So if I push into it, it still feels nice and soft, but it does seem to offer me a bit more bounce back, and I actually get a very similar feeling when I'm running in the two shoes. So for me, the Mach 6 seems to give me a little bit more energy return when I compare it to that slightly softer fuel cell foam in the Rebel V4. And last but not least, flipping the two shoes over, you can see that we actually get a pretty good helping of blown rubber on the outsoles of both shoes, considering they are extremely lightweight neutral daily trainers. So we got rubber on all those high wear areas, and this is actually the first time that the Hoka brand have put a rubber outsole on their Mach model. Previous versions just had a rubberized EVA just to try and keep that weight to a bare minimum. So this rubber outsole should really help when it comes to grip, but also durability. So there you have it, folks, a few stats and a bit of information about the construction of the two shoes. But now we're going to get into the nitty gritty and find out how they've performed over the last month or so. And I'm going to let you know which one of these shoes I prefer to run in. But before we do that, if you've been watching the content on the channel and really enjoying it, but you haven't yet subscribed, maybe today is the day. It couldn't be any easier to do just by clicking on that little red box down there in the corner, and it is completely free. And you can't say that about a lot of things in the world today, but it really would be appreciated, and it's a massive help to the channel. We've actually just passed a big milestone here at Run for Adventure with 50,000 subscribers, which kind of blows my mind if I'm honest. So I've got to say, a massive thanks for all the support, watching the channel, getting involved in the channel. It really is appreciated by myself and Liga. Right, back to the performance of these two great lightweight neutral daily trainers, and we're going to talk all about fit and upper comfort first, because there is some differences when it comes to fit. So I always tend to go up half a size in all my New Balance running shoes to a UK 10, because I do feel they come up a little bit small as far as sizing goes. This UK 10 in the Rebel V4 fits my foot on length perfectly, and if I'm honest, I wish I'd kind of done the same thing in the Mach 6. So I went for my standard UK 9.5, and I do feel quite close on that longer right foot of mine, especially at the end of a longer training run. I would say if I was doing runs over half marathon distance or taking on a marathon in this shoe, that a UK 10 would have been a better option. I've always found the Rebel model to be a pretty narrow fitting shoe, which has actually always worked well for my foot shape. However, I think this time round, New Balance have added a bit of width, a bit of depth at the toe box and the midfoot of the shoe, which I'm sure if there's guys out there with wider foot shapes are really happy about, and it's working well, but I feel that it doesn't quite fit my foot as well as previous versions. And I do have to pull these laces down quite tight to feel locked into this upper. Unfortunately, when I'm doing that, what's happening is the upper is actually puckering up towards the bottom of those laces, and I'm not really a big fan of that, because when that happens, it can cause you comfort issues at the flex point of the shoe. Whereas the Mach 6's upper fits a bit more like the older versions of the Rebel, so the V2 and the V3 that I got on so well with. Definitely a narrower fitting shoe, and again, it works better for my foot shape. Good hold in the heel, good lock down around the midfoot, but I don't have to pull those laces down super tight to achieve it. So it just feels like a more comfortable upper in general. Yes, they've both got a very similar thin gusseted tongue design, but Hoka have been pretty clever, and they've worked in a little bit of padding in the logo at the top of the tongue where those laces pull down tight. So the Mach 6 does feel a little bit more comfortable across the top of my foot when I compare it to the Rebel V4. So when it comes down to fit and upper comfort, for me, the Hoka Mach 6 comes out on top. All important midsole performance up next, and to be fair, both midsoles have performed well, and I'd be happy to spend my training mileage in either one of these shoes. I think this new blend of fuel cell in the Rebel V4 feels nice and cushioned underfoot, and it's offered me a pretty decent level of energy return. The fact that that foam is so light makes the shoe feel really well balanced, and we've got this nice efficient rocker geometry thrown in for good measure. So all in all, I've been really happy with this midsole setup. However, I think I've actually enjoyed the super critical foam of the Mach 6 a little bit more. It's just felt like it's returning a bit more energy for me. It feels like it's putting a bit more of a spring in my step when I'm running, and it just feels a bit snappier and a bit more responsive when I compare it to the Rebel. I think a lot of this comes down to the sort of width or the profile of the midsole. So you can see on the Rebel V4 a lot wider than the previous version, so we got quite a lot of width at the heel, the midfoot and the forefoot. And I think maybe the shoe's lost a bit of its responsiveness because of that, whereas the Mach 6 is definitely a narrower profile, and I think that just makes the shoe feel a bit livelier to run in. So wrapping up with a quick conclusion, and I personally don't think you can go that far wrong with either one of these shoes. If you are looking for that lightweight neutral daily trainer option, they're both super versatile. They can handle pretty much every aspect of your training, from long, steady, slow recovery runs all the way up to race day if you wish to do so. However, I would say they are both super lightweight neutral daily trainers, and I think they are kind of set up for, you know, lighter runners that run off a sort of midfoot, forefoot strike, and I'm not sure how stable either one of them would be if you were more dominant on a heel strike. Also, if you have a bit of width to your foot shape, then I would definitely say that the Rebel V4 would be the best option. Definitely more width and depth in that toe box, whereas the Mach 6 is a pretty narrow fitting shoe, again, which has worked really well for me. So as far as the head-to-head comparison goes, I've actually really enjoyed running in both shoes. They perform really well, but you know, if I was, say, going to be stranded on a desert island and I could only take one pair of running shoes with me, then My choice would have to be Hoka's Mach 6. So that brings another comparison video to an end, but we have actually done a first impressions video on both of these shoes. So if you'd like to see how they went on that first run in a bit more detail, I'll leave a link in the description below. But if you have found the video helpful and you've enjoyed it, don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe if you haven't already, because it really is a big help to the channel. But for now guys, thanks for watching, thanks for supporting, it really is appreciated. We'll be back here very soon with some more exciting running content, and as always, stay safe and keep on running. Or will the Rebel take top spot? Or will the Rebel take top spot? Or will the Rebel V4 from New Balance take top spot? Well, I guess there's only one way to find out, so let's dive into the video.